This is the most abusable potion ever released in old school RuneScape. On the surface, it's just a nice little potion that helps you AFK some boring Slayer tasks, but scratch the surface and underneath is an item that can be abused, used to lure players, increase your DPS, your XP rates, aggro range, and bypass certain mechanics in the game. So I wanted to test it absolutely everywhere, just to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. The new goading potion makes one thing aggressive towards you every 6 ticks, which is every 3.6 seconds. Now, if you're in a single combat area, in combat it won't make anything else aggressive towards you, but in multi-combat it will keep pulling creatures one at a time like this. Now initially I read that it had an aggro range of 4 tiles, but its actual aggro range seems to vary completely depending on the creature, and that has other implications which I'll come to later. Now this potion is currently very expensive, and it costs 155,000 GP for the 4-dose variant, and whilst they might come down a bit in price, it's hard to see them ever becoming incredibly cheap, since it takes about 5 minutes currently to get enough points in mixology to buy the secondary ingredient, plus the demand for these is going to be insane. Even straight off Tutorial Island, this potion is already amazing. Well, of course, if you have the money for it. You can simply AFK all of these slow early levels without running around like a headless. Yeah. But since the next creature will attack you anytime within 3.6 seconds of the last thing that you killed, you can even speed it up a little bit in multi-combat areas, and I found a multi-combat cowfield I never even knew existed. See, my weekends aren't wasted. Anyway, this cowfield is in the South Falador farm, and using the potions here will make a line of cows all waiting to attack you after you kill the last one. And even if you're really low level that doesn't have much defense, you can simply put yourself in a corner, or where the gate is so only one can attack you at a time. The potion also brings into play a few other multi-combat areas that we typically wouldn't use. The entirety of the first floor of the Stronghold of Security is multi-combat, and all the rooms are full of different creatures in a very small space, including goblins, wolves, and minotaurs. I even tried it at the known battlefield just to test and see how it was, but here there's so many obstacles I just kept running around and pulling aggro from absolutely everything. It also has a strange mechanic. I wanted to know if I could aggro creatures like rock crabs from a distance rather than having to stand right next to them, because the spots with 3 or more crabs are usually taken, and even if they're not at high levels you can generally out DPS them before they can respawn. And the potion kinda works, but then only from 2 tiles away, and although the rock crab wakes up and goes towards you, it then doesn't attack you. It just kinda gets in your face like it's about to do something, but then doesn't. The exact same thing happened at the swamp crabs too, so I went over to the ruins of Camdozel to see what the rocks did here, which normally wake when you try to mine them, but nothing happened. And that was the same result at the Elemental Workshop. However, when you use it with worms, you no longer need to wake it from its slumber, and unlike crabs, it immediately attacks you, which seems strange. There was 3 different mechanics for 3 similar style creatures. So I wondered if maybe there was 2 mechanics going on. The potion, waking up a creature and pulling it towards you, and then maybe if that creature is less than half your combat level, it won't be aggressive towards you. So I got my low level alt to selflessly volunteer to test this out, because he's low enough level for swamp crabs that if that was the problem, they should attack him. But again, nothing happened. So it appears they all have different mechanics. Anything you try to mine that usually turns into a creature, the potion just doesn't work on. Anything that is dormant and doesn't have a left click option will go towards you but not attack you. And in the case of a worm, when you put your mouse over it, you see the creature's name and the creature's level, and that's considered a creature already, in which case the potion works. Another interesting mechanic that I found was that the distance which you aggro creatures varies by a massive amount. In the case of the crabs, you could only aggro things 2 tiles away, but in other cases creatures came from what appeared to be at least 8 tiles. So it became apparent that an unexpected bonus of this potion is that you can increase your aggro range at certain creatures. Now there are 2 places that I can think of personally that are meant to be AFK where I find myself attacking creatures because they walked right in front of my face and they didn't realise I was even there. The first one is gargoyles. Sometimes they attack you and sometimes they don't. Well, this potion was absolutely amazing here. Not only did any gargoyle close to me attack me, but then on top of that, the potion was pulling extra ones in and they all started to stack up behind. So every time I killed one, another one would be there waiting to attack. The other place I wanted to try was the Warriors Guild, where again, Cyclops can often be very close to you, but they never actually attack. And the potion did help here, but it wasn't quite as good as Gargoyles. And I'm not sure if that's just because of their size or that it's so open here, but although they pulled the creatures in, they never really stacked up in one place. I then found another creature that changes one of its core mechanics when the potion is used. The obvious use for the potion when we heard it was being released was AFKing creatures, and in particular Slayer. It's a very slow skill, and it allows you to AFK almost every single Slayer task, making it a lot less tedious. But they seem to have gone out of the way to make it so you can now AFK Basilisk Knights. Usually, once they first spot you, the first attack is melee, and if they can't melee you, they just stand there kinda looking at you. Only when you then hit them from distance will they start to attack you with magic. So that means after you kill one of them, the next one won't attack you and it just stands there, not doing a lot. However, the game treats this potion as an attack, and since you aren't in melee range, it will immediately start to mage you, which means you can now AFK here for 5 minutes at a time. Unfortunately, the price of this potion is stopping this from being a profitable AFK spot, but it does still have a use for Iron Men and those going for collection logs. In a similar way to that, you can also use it in Moss Giants and Hill Giants for the Mossy and the Giant Keys, and this potion has so many benefits, including increasing your DPS, albeit indirectly, and you can do this in a few different ways. Standing in the middle of Abyssal Demons in the Catacombs of Korend will now aggro both sides of it, and as an added bonus, the potion stops any of them teleporting to you until they've got in melee range, and that stops the issue where you try to tag them and they teleport you over to them. Of course, it also saves you the time from tagging them, meaning you get more kills. It also works really well at Greater Nechril and Dust Devils in the Catacombs, and you would think that the 3.6 seconds the potion takes to aggro something else could be an issue, but as you barrage in the clump, they all spawn at different times, and the potion just keeps gathering them in. When you think about it, it's probably saving you, at least 10% of our time here, maybe even 20%, and how much would we pay for a weapon that increased your kills by that much? It also allows you to blood barrage the Tazar task pretty much anywhere within the cave, and I would imagine it would increase your DPS with a Venator bow because you're going to have more creatures around you that the bow can ricochet off. So what about the places that you wouldn't think of? Well, I can't say I was expecting the potion to be better in places where you can use a cannon, since cannons pull a ton of aggro already, but I had a theory and I wanted to test it, so I took it over to the mutated Bloodvelds. And whilst cannons are great for aggro, they take quite a while to do a full circle and they don't always hit everything dependent on the positioning. But as we know, the potion pulls aggro on top of everything that you're already doing, including the natural aggression and cannons. So all it does is it pulls in all of the stragglers around the room that the cannon didn't manage to hit, and the cannon then does more damage because of how it works. If you stand in the middle of a cannon and you have creatures around you, especially creatures that take up more than one tile like this, the cannon hits far more often and sometimes hits creatures twice. Now, it wasn't the biggest sample size that I've ever done, and I only spent 5 minutes here, but that one small difference got me 34 kills in 5 minutes with the potion, and without the potion I got 30 kills, which is effectively an increase in kills of 13%. However, in an area like the lighthouse where the cannon pretty much hits constantly anyway, it had almost no impact. And against a creature like the Calphite Workers, which have a large natural aggression range in a very small cave, the potion again did very little. It is though likely to be slightly better in the Slayer cave because the area is much bigger. So now that I felt like I had a decent understanding of this potion, I wanted to then test it in places where it could potentially be abused, so hopefully Jagex can fix it before anyone finds it. I was curious if it could take aggro from all of the creatures in Pest control, so if you had a terrible team you could essentially tank for all of them, but unfortunately it seems that the potion only pulls aggro from the splatters, and it doesn't help things like the torches that are attacking the Void Knight in the centre. But I wondered if the potion would aggro all of the rogues in the rogues' den where people thieve the chests. Since it's only really possible to PK here because people can't log out to Hot Worlds because they're constantly in combat. If you could pull the aggro of absolutely everything here, it would allow someone to do it on an alt and essentially create safe worlds where players or bot farms can instantly hop if a PK comes along. To start off with, I used the potion in a world where there was a couple of bots, players that were already thieving. And when I simply stood in the middle here with the potion active, it didn't do anything at all. But I noticed that any rogue attacking me wouldn't switch target even when the other players looted the chests. So I found out if you pop this potion and grab aggro from absolutely everything here, then you stack them up in one spot like this, because all of them are now always attacking you, anyone else looting the chest won't get attacked. Now, I don't think this is a potion issue, and I presume it works without the potion just makes it far easier to do. But when I tried the same thing at the Wilderness Agility course, even when you have aggro and everything around you, as soon as another player enters the same area, they then switch targets. So I'm not sure if that's because this area is single plus combat. A couple of other things that I tested that I thought might work. I went to Vespula just to see if she would keep attacking me if it didn't attack the portal, instead of stinging the grubs, but the potion had no effect here. I then went to Baba to see if the potions would stop the monkeys attacking the sarcophaguses, or at least re-aggro them and pull them away from the sarcophagus, but that didn't work either, and it also doesn't engage with the Kraken when it's submerged. Overall, this potion is truly amazing, and if it wasn't for the price, we'd all be taking these absolutely everywhere when we're doing combat except bosses. But my biggest fear with this potion is the ability to lure players. There's been a ton of issues with PvP deaths lately, where players are finding ways to get PvP damage in what should be a safe zone, like a house, and that damage is not getting wiped, so then when they have a PvM death afterwards, the PK gets the loot. And I've seen this myself when I was over at Jelly's without even thinking or realising. I had the potion active just a few tiles away from me with Dust Devils, which would have killed me just a few hits, and I was completely oblivious to them. I mean, anyone coming here is going to presume that they're safe, and the same goes for Basilisks in the Fremnik Slayer Caves and Banshees in the Slayer Tower, where we consider the areas to be pretty safe. You know, when you have that horrible feeling that someone at some point is going to think up some really random method that allows this potion to be completely abused.